program. That is an area where the PRAB has formal approval per the charter. You do have to approve any expenditures from the Permanent Parks and Recreation Fund. And we'll also get your final input on our 2024 budget submission and the fee policy. You'll see that there's a edit we caught this morning that we'll talk about when we set agendas later this week, that in June, you're actually going to discuss the fee policy so that your input can shape the final draft you see in July. Other exciting upcoming events, just noting that in July, we'll start talking about the civic area. You all got a pre-kickoff overview of that earlier this year. I do want to call attention, just the department events and item of interest. I'm not going to name them all, but there is a lot going on in summer in Boulder Parks and Recreation. We know the board members enjoy participating, so you'll want to check those out. And whenever you can, we appreciate your attendance. Specifically, though, I guess I will call out, I believe that June 14th, Tina knew where I was going. June 14th is our groundbreaking, the official groundbreaking for the Flatirons Golf Course. So we hope we see you all out there. We're really excited about that project. With that, I'll hand it to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I'm going to report that unfortunately I won't be able to make the June 14th groundbreaking. I would be there, but I'm on work travel. So regrets. I want to apologize for my voice too. The smoke has really been rasping my voice up, so I'm going to be a little hoarse today. Next up, we have public participation. This portion of the meeting is for members of the public to communicate their ideas or concerns to the board about Parks and Recreation issues. Items for which a public hearing is not scheduled for later in the meeting. So we have no public hearings this meeting, so all public comment will be taken now. The public is encouraged to comment on the need for Parks and Recreation programs and facilities as they perceive them. All speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Depending on the nature of your matter, you may or may not receive a response from the board or from staff after you deliver your comments. But be assured that the board is always listening to, and we are very appreciative of your feedback. So we have several speakers tonight, and Rosa has a list of them. Let's see if I can pull it up too. See, the first person that I have on the list is Catherine Barth, and she'll be followed by Bill Brenner. Is that right? Okay. So Catherine, if you could unmute yourself, I think you should have the capability to do that now from Rosa.
Go ahead.
And Rosa, I neglected to ask you to record the session. I want to make sure you started that. Okay, go ahead, Catherine.
Okay. All right. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. You're a little faint, so if you could speak up a bit, that'd be helpful.
Okay. And I noted I've just lost like a quarter of a minute. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I am a great fan of Olmsted, and I've been doing a lot of reading, and I was just doing some reading today that just really inspired me. And I just wanted to share this with you. You may know this, but at the time that he was hired by Boulder, there were only 10,000 people who lived here. And he was answered, there was a question that the Boulder Improvement Committee asked him, which was, what physical improvements within the reach of the city of Boulder will help to make it increasingly convenient, agreeable, and generally satisfactory as a place to live? And his answer was a wonderful, quite long report, The Improvement of Boulder, Colorado. In that, he said, and I love this, that Boulder should never arrange itself for the benefit of tourists, because they hastily pass through a place which attracts them. They leave just a few nickels behind, and they don't take interest in the welfare of the community, and they often conduct themselves so interfere seriously with the comfort and welfare of the residents. He was also kind of suspicious of developers, saying they were not running charitable enterprises, and said they were usually from out of town. But then this is the thing that just really inspired me. He said, as with the food we eat and the air we breathe, so the sights habitually before our eyes play an immense part in determining whether we feel cheerful, efficient, and fit for life, or the contrary. He was concerned with the mental and nervous condition of people. And he said, our job is, in all cases, is to achieve order. He said, we aim at order and we hope for beauty. And I just think that's such an inspiring thing for these beautiful parks that we have in our city. And I thank you so much for the work you do. And thanks so much.
Great. Thank you for that historical perspective. That's very interesting. Next up, we have Bill Brenner, and he'll be followed by Patrick O'Rourke.
Hey, good evening. I'm Bill Brenner. I'm speaking on behalf of the Boulder Aquatic Masters Swim Program that uses Parks and Rec's pools in Boulder. I'm the Senior Director of Club and Coach Development for U.S. Masters Swimming. USMS is the national governing body for adult swimming, and we represent over 1,500 clubs with 60,000 members nationwide. Boulder Aquatic Masters is one of our registered clubs. Our joint mission is to encourage adults to swim for health, wellness, fitness, and competition. We are a community-oriented and provide swimming as a form of recreation and exercise. We even help adults learn how to swim, and once they do learn, they become safer in and around the water. Our programs are inclusive. We're diverse in age, gender, and ability levels. We have swimmers from ages 18 to over 100 years old. Many learn to swim as an adult as a life-saving skill. Many want to swim and use swimming as a form of exercise to live a healthier lifestyle. Whatever their reason is for swimming, clubs like Boulder Aquatic Masters provides the opportunity and encourages them to swim for a lifetime. BAM provides dedicated practice times for adults to swim with other like-minded adults under the watchful eye of a professional master's coach. The master's coach knows what each swimmer's goals are, what motivates them to swim, and instructs them how to swim correctly with good technique that will help them avoid injury from poor stroke mechanics. The master's coach is the leader of the program and makes swimming challenging but fun. They create an inclusive atmosphere for as many adults as possible. Adults may be intrinsically motivated and choose to be at practice, so the coach is charged with making sure each swimmer gets a meaningful experience. Swimming in a master's program is a social event, and for many of our adults, it may be their only social network. Sharing a lane or time on the pool deck is as much mental therapy as it is physical activity. We want to encourage as many adults as possible to join in on the fun. I hope you continue to support the Boulder Aquatic Masters program by providing lane space in your pools at an affordable price, so Boulder Aquatic Masters may continue to do their good work in the Boulder community and encourage adults from all walks of life and economic means. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Patrick O'Rourke, followed by Mike Ellis. Patrick, you can go ahead.
Hi, good evening, my friends at Parks and Recreation. My name is Patrick O'Rourke. I'm the Preservation Chair for Historic Boulder, and I just wanted to touch base with you on a couple things because our paths in the near future will probably cross several times. Probably within the next week, Historic Boulder, the Friends of the Tea House, and the Friends of the Band Show will be submitting an application for a civic historic district in that particular part of town. I think Catherine Barth just spoke to the Olmsted report from 1910, believe it or not, but we still believe it holds true to Boulder. There's a couple things I'd like to bring up. One is the proposal is going forward, so I just wanted to make sure that you're aware of it. So if you need to have a discussion about it, because I know it's on your agenda tonight, I did not know it until I looked earlier. But also there's going to be a recommendation for a CLA, a cultural landscape assessment. And we strongly support a cultural landscape assessment. The challenge we have is we believe that assessment should be more comprehensive than the one I believe that's going to be presented. It's our recommendation that the CLA that the Parks and Rec Board is going to be in charge of start at Canyon Park and go all the way down to 28th Street. When I spoke last month, I mentioned that there's 15 historic sites on this creek. It's basically following the creek. And it's our recommendation the boundaries follow what is known as the HHZ, the high hazard zone, or the floodway, not the floodplain, but the floodway that follows the creek, because we believe it's a critical asset to our community, especially if there's going to be a historic district in the future. So I just wanted to touch base with you on that, make you aware of it, and have you discuss, or hopefully you'll discuss expanding the boundaries to what we believe is the appropriate one. And finally, I'm not sure I have on my notes here that the Fort Chambers marker, but I don't believe Parks and Rec is involved. I think it might have been for Open Space Mountain Parks, but they chose to have the marker removed from the Fort Chambers location. And we've been in contact with Indigenous groups that believe that might be a mistake and that it might be a form of erasing history. That being said, if it is moved and Parks and Rec has anything to do with it, it would be our recommendation that it be turned over to the Boulder Museum so that they can handle it. I once again, thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, we're looking forward to being part of the Civic Historic District in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Mike Ellis, followed by Mark Eller.
Thank you. I'm Mike Ellis, and I'm a member of the board of BAM, which Bill Brenner talked about a minute ago. I want to talk about the way that Parks and Recs is managing fees for clubs such as BAM, and I've heard that there's some terms like exclusive being bandied about. I just want to explain that BAM is not exclusive by any definition of the word. We are inclusive by any definition. The only thing you have to do to be a member of BAM is know how to swim and follow our code of conduct, which ties back to inclusivity. Unlike most master's programs that Bill talked about, BAM is a 501c3 nonprofit. Our goal is not to make money or cater to any specific swimming population, but to foster adult swimming in the Boulder region. As required by law, our governance is totally transparent. Anybody can sign up. Our members range from 19 to 88. We have discounted membership for seniors, for people on Medicare with disability, people on Medicaid. We encourage younger swimmers by discounting them as well. We have free membership for multiple Medicare insurance gym programs, similar to what Boulder does. We have a program to offer free swimming to those in the greatest need. For example, we use that for victims of the Marshall Fire. Our members range in ability from beginners to pro athletes to seniors who just want to keep active. Some members participate in sanctioned competitions, but most don't and never will. We have members with disability who feel totally included. We have neurodiverse members. Some have used BAM to prepare for national or international level Paralympics or Down syndrome competitions. Our coaches at every workout are trained, as Bill talked about, experienced with working with swimmers at every level. And every single one of our workouts is open to every single one of our swimmers. We don't have separate workouts for different communities or different abilities. And lanes used by BAM typically have up to 6 swimmers. If you go to lap swimming, maybe you have a swimmer or 2 in a lane. We're very efficient. We also offer the only regular open water swimming program in the Front Range that we're aware of. We have deep roots in the Boulder community. Some of our members have been swimming with BAM for as long as 40 years. if facility rates charged by Boulder increase drastically, we may not be able to continue our program with the same broad user base. So we ask that you have a fee program that is kind to programs like BAM. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Mark Eller, followed by Reese Campbell.
Hello, thanks for letting me speak tonight. It's Mark with Boulder Community Rowing and our affiliated sister program, Colorado Junior Crew. And I'm here tonight with plenty of good things to relay. I realize sometimes we only make an appearance when we feel like we're in crisis mode. So there is good news ahead. Overall, the rowing community seems to be working more productively with the Parks and Rec staff than we have been in recent years. We're getting many important issues worked out, or at least around the road. And I want to sincerely thank Parks and Rec staff for their responsiveness to all of our questions and concerns. And as I said, we're moving along in a productive fashion right now. One item of concern at the moment is that our rowing programs are operating without a contract from the city. The city tells us that their review process is taking longer than expected. But we are hopeful to resolve this quickly. And just today, I've heard that there is still continuing progress. But we always have some back and forth about the particulars of our contract. And we need to have time to resolve those. And our club operates on small margins. So it's very stressful to not know what the expenses for the year are going to be. So we're going to just keep chipping away at that. But we hope to resolve it within a matter of days. This year, we're asking for a monthly billing cycle to be able to better track expenses rather than waiting to the end of the year. It's not easy in the late fall or winter to remember when a practice was canceled and we shouldn't be charged or this, that, or the other. So the monthly billing cycle will be a much more accurate way to handle things. But back to the good news, we are seeing a huge increase in public demand for our open houses and our free introduction to rowing classes and our low cost 6-week program for new rowers. We're seeing 40, 50, even 60 participants every time we hold an open house at the res right now. The public is engaged, and that's really great to see. And I think it speaks to the need to keep working with our community. And finally, I just want to say that all the quiet sports at the reservoir, the paddlers, the swimmers, the rowers, all of us would really benefit from some expanded hours for public access, specifically public access during non-working, non-school times when there are restrictions on wakes from powerboat use in the mornings and late afternoons. The shoulder seasons, just May and September alone, adding some more times when we can be free of that and the quiet sport users can use the res. That would be a huge benefit. So I hope we can keep talking about that as we move forward together. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. It's great to hear the positive feedback on the process. So thank you. Next, we have Reese Campbell, followed by Kevin Godsick.
Hi guys, quick sound check. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Good evening, guys. My name is Reese Campbell. I am the president of Boulder Aquatic Masters. As you heard from Bill and Mike, we're a 501c3 nonprofit, and we have been offering fully inclusive community swimming for anyone over the age of 18 for 30 plus years. I'd like to thank the PRAB for their time today. Are we into tonight? Maybe it's tonight now. I have two topics that I'd like to bring up. Firstly, as the previous speaker said, sometimes positive feedback is hard to come by. So on behalf of Boulder Aquatic Masters swimmers, and by extension, many of the swimmers in the city and county of Boulder, I'd like to say a huge thank you to Tim Stabe for his work I think Tim is the recreational supervisor for aquatics. Tim does an amazing job of juggling all the swimmer groups, all vying for pool space and time, you know, especially as we go into this, you know, busy summer season with the outdoor pools. Well, organizing last year's community open water swims at the res was a bit challenging. Tim's approach on the pool front is just really refreshing. His general willingness to, you know, make it work, get stuff done, really shines through. So I wanted to pass a huge thanks over to him. Secondly, last year, BAM ran the open water swims coming off the back of COVID, and we lost approximately $3,000 doing those swims. So related to costs charged to aquatics groups to swim in Boulder, I've read through the proposed user group categorization scheme, where we are put into one of three categories: community, recreational, or exclusive. What caught my eye in one of the slides was swimming was an exclusive activity. Aquatics user groups do not provide a limited community benefit, which is the definition of exclusive. In fact, swimming groups such as BAM are community-based, you know, per your definition. So at any given practice, you'll find aquatic enthusiasts from their 20s through to their 80s, as Mike said. We do not turn down anyone, including folks from the City of Boulder's own Expand program, which I saw was clearly categorized as community. So my ask is that swimming groups such as Boulder Aquatic Masters be placed in either the community category or, you know, the lower end of the recreational category in terms of cost recovery. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you. Next, we have Kevin Godzik, followed by Tanya Kumalat.
Hey folks, Kevin Godzik here, joining as a competitive local rec tennis player and former coach. Just looking to provide my perspective regarding the court situation here in Boulder as a relatively new resident. And while I'm a new member of the community, I know I'm not alone in the sentiment I'm about to share. As a self-proclaimed tennis fanatic, ironing out all the details of how I'd explore, you know, the Boulder tennis community was at the top of my list when moving here in August. I'd mapped out all the local tennis facilities and courts even before signing my lease. And coming from Madison, Wisconsin, a city of relatively comparable size and athletic involvement to Boulder, at least outside of the winter months, I was really excited to take advantage of the sun and the larger competitive tennis community here in Colorado. The Boulder Tennis Association and the members there made it really easy to start hitting and playing matches, getting used to the elevation. And as my shots and lungs continued to acclimate, I really quickly noticed that all my hitting partners started to mention, you know, more and more the difficulty of finding an open court, much less a court without cracks that would change the course of a point or a game, or maybe even an entire match. And I soon experienced this firsthand. We would drive all around town from court to court, sometimes needing to reschedule for days later and giving into the court reservation system, which I hadn't been privy to in Madison. This is a totally new experience for me in the tennis world. The added stress of not knowing whether I was going to be able to spend, you know, a beautiful day here outside doing what I loved most. What was supposed to be a dependable stress reliever for me was soon intensifying my stress more than I had ever imagined. Madison, you know, was a little different. Over 100 courts there. The public and private court infrastructure there never really had me worried. The 3 tennis facilities, one of them hosts one of the largest indoor Division I college championships. And all those courts kept all of us there motivated to drive even through that persistent snow and slush 8 months out of the year. I didn't even know there was a court reservation system there. No one ever needed to use it, seemingly. But in my short time here, I've already realized the tennis community is precious. So many passionate players here at all skill levels. And I've spent countless late nights locking up the Rocky Mountain Tennis Center indoor bubble, which is one of the only reliable centers for tennis over the winter months. And more recently contemplated how lucky I am to play here at the base of the Flatirons at the CU South complex during the Austin Scott tournament this week. But hit after hit, I'm constantly reminded that the struggles that Boulder tennis will need to overcome within the next couple of years, the loss of the Rocky Mountain Tennis Facility, and the beautiful CU South courts. More and more frequently, I'm driving to Broomfield, Longmont, or Louisville to get my fix of tennis in, and residing in Boulder is looking less and less appetizing for residents who continue to pour their heart out into this lifelong sport of tennis. So I'm just asking and sincerely hoping for meaningful change, and just expressing I'm willing to help however I can to help this community grow alongside the sport. Thanks so much. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Tanya Kamalat, and followed by Larry McKeel.
Hi, I'm Tanya Kumalat. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can. Thanks.
Okay, great. I'm a longtime Boulder resident, and I just completed my first season as the Fairview High School girls tennis coach, where our varsity team took second place at the 5A state tournament, and we had 5 girls take individual state championship titles. I'm here tonight to advocate for the City of Boulder Parks and Rec to build indoor tennis facilities as part of the Parks and Rec's programs and facilities. I grew up in Boulder, and in fact, at age 11, I spoke at a city council meeting in support of adding basketball courts into a pocket park going in across the street from my house. So it feels fitting to be speaking here today. I also want to mention those courts are still in frequent use. Every time I ride my bike by them, I see people out there playing basketball on them. So that's great to see. I grew up playing tennis in Boulder in the mid-90s, and while the summer brought great opportunity to play, options to play through the winter were limited to just 2 private clubs, what's now known as the RMTC Bubble and Boulder Country Club. And while the hardy amongst us would shovel snow off the courts when the sun peeked through and the temp drifted above the 40s, there was not much tennis going on in Boulder unless you were privileged enough to belong to one of those clubs. It's kind of shocking to me that 30 years later, and even though the city of Boulder has grown in so many great ways, we're in the same situation, and it's even more dire with the demand having grown. As a tennis playing community member, I'm privileged to get to play at one of the private indoor clubs, but competition begins before you even get out onto the court when trying to nail down a court time. In the winter and spring, I find myself on the road to Denver at least 2 times a week to find indoor playing time in Arvada and as far as South Denver. For the girls' high school tryouts, we actually had to pay out of a high school budget for indoor court time and guest fees just to get challenge matches in. And even then we had to play them at 10 and 11 o'clock at night. So I have really recognized that the situation is more dire as I've stepped into the head coaching role. I have over 60 girls playing on the tennis team, and I'm told in pre-pandemic times we had even more. And the demand for tennis all around Boulder is just growing astronomically as it is across the US. During the state championships, we had the chance to see and use some of the facilities that Denver provides to community members, the Denver Tennis Park being a place that we went when we got rained out multiple times. So anyway, thank you. I really hope you consider adding an indoor tennis facility and just more tennis facilities.
Thanks very much for your comments, and congratulations on the second place finish for the Fairview girls high school team of the state finals. My wife was actually on the Fairview High team in the 1980s and won a doubles state championship with you guys. So that's great. Next up is Larry McKeel.
Good evening. Everyone can hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Hello, Preb. My name is Larry McKeel. I've been a Boulder resident for 33 plus years and an avid user of city parks and rec services for over 20. I've been interacting with Parks and Rec staff for the better part of the last 15 years. Tonight's comments are directed towards the fee policy and budget strategy portion of this evening's agenda. As I mentioned during last month's Preb meeting, during my public comments, and in the follow-up email after the meeting, aquatic user groups are not providing a limited community benefit. We are the community. At any given practice, you will find aquatic enthusiasts in their 20s through to their 70s or 80s. And you've heard several other members talk to this fact earlier. For the 2 proud members that managed to click through the enclosed slides that I included with my follow-up email, thank you, by the way. You would have seen that BAM Open Water Swims brought in about 400 unique swimmers who swam a cumulative number of swims in excess of 1,300 times out of the reservoir last summer. You would have also seen that 76% of those swimmers were not BAM members. The BAM board's goal for open water swimming this summer are threefold. Foster a sense of connection and community. Open water swimming can be a deeply personal and communal experience, and BAM's open water swims enhance this unique aspect. Support accessible and inclusive swimming opportunities by accommodating swimmers of varying abilities and backgrounds, and promoting diversity among participants and volunteers. And then lastly, promoting physical and mental well-being, plus water safety and education. These goals are all about meeting the swimmer where they are and to help them be the best person that they can be at that point in time. User groups such as BAM and the Boulder Community Rowers are augmenting the city's recreational programs at no additional expense. We are offering a value that is greater than just the financial transaction to all, especially given the fact that the city is financially benefiting from our activities more so than the organizations themselves are. The reservoir last summer benefited from the nearly $13,000 in gate fees that our open water swims brought through the gate at the early morning hours. Meanwhile, BAM was able to recoup just about a third of that money, only to turn around and hand it back to the city for various fees related to our own swim. We're hoping in 2023 just to break even. For these reasons, we should be viewed as a recreational activity as opposed to exclusivity, and we should have a reasonable subsidy level. My comments at the PRAB meetings are not looking for handouts. We are and do pay reasonable rates for services consumed. It would be great if we didn't incur a 300% fee increase to access the reservoir in order to safely host a money-making activity for the city's recreational budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. So at this time, I'd like to offer staff the opportunity to respond to any of these concerns. I'd be interested in hearing a little bit about something we discussed last month, which is how to define the community recreational and exclusive use rules, and be interested in finding out how we might communicate to the public how those rules will be established and what they might look like.
As I mentioned, in June, you're going to see a draft fee policy, and that's when the details of that will be outlined. As a reminder for current board members and as an introduction for new board members, for City of Boulder offered programs, we have a objective scoring system to outline how programs are categorized. And I expect that the draft you see in June will show how certain program types are categorized, as well as what organizations can do if they think that they are deserving of subsidy. The other thing that you will see in the future is that part of the conversation also has to be about funding levels. So if we are to discount fees below costs, that money has to be funded from somewhere, which requires trade-offs. So we expect to be following up with you that at the June meeting. You'll see a draft policy that you will approve in July. And so beyond that, I didn't hear any other questions from the public comment. I heard a couple of folks interested in courts in our community. You're going to hear an update on our court system plan, which is kicking off very soon as a matter from the department very soon, if those folks want to hang in and listen. But other than that, we have really smart people on our team if any board members had questions about anything. Yeah, Mr. O'Rourke mentioned the historic marker that is on the Fort Chambers property that is managed by our colleagues in open space and mountain parks. And while I can't speak for them, I am aware that they have very close relationships with Indigenous peoples through our government to government relations with the tribes. And I encourage Mr. O'Rourke to reach out to our colleagues in the open space and mountain parks department. Patrick, if you're still listening and you don't know who to contact, feel free to email me and I will connect you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from board members? So we have Sunny on, is that correct? Okay. Just let us know if you need to say something, Sunny. Since we can't see the raise hand feature, how is there a way, Rosa, that you'll be able to detect if Sunny wants to make a comment? Okay, thank you.
No comments at this time. Thank you, though.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next up on the agenda is the consent agenda, which includes approval of the minutes from last meeting, followed by the Parks and Recreation planning, design and construction updates, and then the Parks and Recreation operations updates. And those latter two things have been communicated by in the materials that were given to the PRAB members before the meeting. So they won't be directly discussed unless there are questions from board members. Let's start with approval of the minutes from April 24th, 2023. Can I get a motion to approve those minutes, or are there any amendments that are suggested?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. A second.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Anita. All in favor of approving the minutes, please indicate by raising your hand or saying aye. Aye. Okay, the minutes are approved. So next up are the planning, design, and construction updates from the consent agenda. Are there any comments from members of the board? Well, as usual, I have some if no one else does. I wanted to thank the staff members for responding to the concerns I presented about the Pleasant View Fields at last month's meeting. I do want to apologize for being a little emotional about my response to that. I was a little bit, I have as I said, it's sort of a triggering for me. I've had some close encounters with vehicles in that parking lot, and some aggressive drivers actually trying to run me off the pedestrian path. So I get a little wound up about it. The way we're approaching this this project sort of exemplifies for me the need to have a more comprehensive citywide strategy on how we consider the greenhouse gas and climate effects of any new project. And one thing that I suggested to Ally during our recent talk was developing some sort of a tool or some sort of way to evaluate the climate effects of any new project, something similar to the racial equity instrument that could be used for doing climate specific impacts of any new development. And so that's something that is certainly citywide and not something just within the Parks and Recreation program. So it's something that I mentioned to her, and I don't know if where that will go, but I hope that it's something that you'll consider. And I think it would be important to apply in this particular circumstance as well. In the operations portion of the updates, I wanted to thank Boulder Aquatic Masters for the volunteers that they provided to help get the Scott Carpenter Park ready for the season. I think that's really great. And also congratulations to Chelsea Czerny for her award for Special Olympics Coach of the Year. I think that's really great. So please pass along our congratulations from the board.
I will definitely do that. And I'll just take a moment to talk about Expand. Because you were talking about program categorization. So Expand is in the community benefit category as we program things. It's very highly subsidized so that there are minimal barriers to participate. Many of our participants in Expand, they have physical or developmental disabilities and they experience barriers every day of their lives. And Expand, we know, is life-changing for them. It provides opportunities for connection and fun. And I've got to see it firsthand this spring because I've helped Chelsea out at our Special Olympics track on Wednesday nights because it's at the exact same time that Jack Rhodes has soccer out at East Boulder Community Park. And they're magic makers, the way they get these participants moving when they don't want to and connecting with each other. And they are all magic makers, and Chelsea is worthy of recognition. So we're really proud to have her on our team.
It wasn't clear, was that a national level award or state level?
It was from the state.
Okay.
Yeah, so
That's
folks
wonderful.
from Special Olympics Colorado were out. They presented the award. They had, we all knew in advance. So many members of our team were there. Her family was there. She was not, like so many public servants, not at all interested in recognition, but it was pretty cool to appreciate her.
Oh, that's great. Any further comments or questions from the board? Okay, great. We'll move on. We have no action items tonight. And we have no matters for discussion information, but we do have matters from the department, the court system plan and the budget strategy roadmap and fee policy. So we'll start with the court system plan.
All right, so I'm going to introduce Senior Landscape Architect Tina Briggs to present this item, and just know how timely this is, right? You heard from some folks in public comment. There is a lot of interest in courts in our community. I do want to remind you, Tina is going to talk about the court system plan, but I want to remind you for 2023, we have tripled the amount that we are spending on taking care of the courts that we have. That number increases with your approval of the CIP in June. It will double again. So we'll go from $60,000 a year in 2022 to 200,000 this year to 400,000 a year for the next 5 years when you approve that capital. So folks and tenants, we hear you. We know that we're behind on maintenance and we're committed to doing better with what we have. And Tina's going to talk about the future.
Okay, let me get this going and we'll steal the screen. Rosa, do I just, oh, it has to come closer.
You can share from your end, Tina.
Even the Zoom.
I am, but it's not showing a share option.
Have you allowed it?
Yeah, there is a panelist.
You're so kind to stay while we work through our logistics. Oh, there it goes.
There
we go.
All right.
This is our first meeting in the council chamber since COVID, so please bear with us while we have these technical challenges. Yeah, pre-COVID, this is where all our meetings were.
It's less collegial. Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
There we go. It just took a little bit.
All right, here we go. Let's go to the beginning. Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about the court system plan. So really, I know you've heard from a couple of folks from the tennis community, but we've been hearing from the pickleball community as well, right? So we're hearing and we want to acknowledge and explore that growing need and demand from both of those particular sports. And then we also want to acknowledge the changing supply of courts that are in our system. So things that are changing and have changed. So in the past, there have been a set of courts that went back to BVSD and are under their management. We know that CU South, that development is going to change some court inventory. And then what they're calling RMTC or the Rocky Mountain Tennis Club, you might also see it as that Millennium Property redevelopment. So just making that acknowledgement that we know things are happening with those carts in the future. So that's, elevates the need for the system plan right now. And then we can talk a little bit about in the state of the system, what that CIP looks like, and knowing that we maybe were a little bit behind on that maintenance, what we're doing to change that. And then while we're even doing the things in the short term, we're building this plan for the future. So we'll just start with the scope. Or not. Okay. So really what the plan is going to do really is going to help us make those data informed decisions about those pickleball and tennis courts. So the things that we're looking at, right, are investment, the management of, and then the programming of those things. And so a blend of all of those three makes it kind of a bigger plan than really just thinking about inventory and investment. So the primary outcomes of this plan is really looking at that short-term data informed the actions and the maintenance and the distribution and in the immediate, like 2 to 3 year range, and then looking at the longer range decision as well for investment and prioritization, and then exploring expansion possibilities. And so when I say the action and vision investment, if you remember the funding resources, we're always looking at fiscally constrained action and vision. So those long range decisions are really going to be more in that fiscally constrained. But then we also want to provide some opportunities. What does that action and vision look like? And start to work and looking at where, when, and how we can partner with community members, other organizations, and maybe even private industries in that public-private partnership. So it'll help lay out some of the basics of how that can look in the future. Quick on the process and timeline, there's a little bit more in the packet, but overall in the June, July, you'll see, right, we're doing the data collection and research first, then we're moving into a needs assessment. Community engagement has a longer window, of course, and then market analysis is also part of that, looking at what does our surrounding community look like, how have other partnerships worked really well, what are the funding strategies, how are they managing things now? So we'll be looking at some of that, and then coming back with those recommendations and prioritization, and then moving on to those action and vision opportunities. And that might be to the detail level of like, what properties would we be thinking about for the future if there were those opportunities for expansion? Before I go into the court system today, do you guys have any questions so far on the basic scope, the timeline or process? Okay. So I think overall, I just wanted to show you some of the background research we were doing. We were talking about courts today. So just a quick overview of what we have in the system today, you know, especially if we're not tennis players, it might be helpful just to kind of see a little bit of mapping. So really we have 28 racket sports in the system. So these are really just owned and maintained by Boulder Parks and Recreation. So we haven't looked at anything private, at least it's not on this list, right? Like we're doing that investigation, but this is really just what we own and manage right now. The size of those green circles is just to be relative on, like, for example, here there's 4 courts and here there's 2 courts. So it's just to give you that visual spatial of what that looks like. And then kind of calculated it to a big circle down there. What these are is, of those courts, 18 are dedicated tennis courts. Kind of shows you where those are spread around the city. There's an additional part of that 28 is the 10 multi-sport courts. So what that really, when we say a multi-sport court, those are they're basically tennis courts that we've also striped for pickleball with pickleball lines. There usually are 2 pickleball courts for each 1 tennis court. And so that's what we're considering multi-sport in this case. There are 0 dedicated pickleball courts at this time. So then just a little bit of capital investment. And you can kind of see where those orange flags, you know, they're flying up and the distribution of that. So in 2022, we did bump up the investment and maintenance of courts. So you'll see that those 5 courts were resurfaced in our system. And then as we move on to 2023, planned for this year are 6 resurfaced courts. And then of course, this court study, hopefully in 2024, with all the budget said and done, is we'll be replacing 4 courts with post-tension, which is different than resurfacing. Resurfacing is more of a patch. The post-intention is actually a longer term fix, and it has a longer life cycle than some of our other courts. And then adding 4 dedicated pickleball courts at the East Boulder Community Park. Yeah.
Quick question, and it's sorry for the ignorance here, but when it's a multi-sport court, how do you transition back and forth? I know sometimes there's the extra holes in the thing. Are those covered? I don't play pickleball, so more just a logistics question on how.
Yeah, so on logistics, we tried something new at Chautauqua, which was having more of a it's not, well, it's retractable, but actually the posts go into the court. We've learned from pickleball and from tennis, those are less desirable. So what we do have at the other rec centers, they're basically rollout nets. So they're cable tied to the fence and then they're able to just roll out so that they're not affecting the course of the court for the tennis court. So it's not a bad bounce or anything like that. So it's a preferable way to work it. Yeah. Any other questions? All right. I just also have a version of this very quickly in a spreadsheet because we all think a little bit differently. This just really shows kind of the distribution of those 18 dedicated tennis courts, the 0 pickleball right now. We do have 10 multi-sport, which then equals 20 pickleball courts. And then there's a total, and then it shows which are lighted. I didn't map the lighted courts in the past. There are also 4 courts actually that are striped on a roller rink. But I haven't counted those in the main count, partly because you have to bring your own net out right now. So I think the logistics of that make it a little bit more tough. I think it's something we could work through as an option. Oops. And then it just shows kind of those, like Ali was talking about, how the investment has changed over time. And I color coded a little bit just so you can see if we're looking at that 21, 22, when we were striping pickleball courts and doing some resurfacing. That's about $200,000 worth of investment. In 2023, it's looking closer to a 275. And then in 2024, it's closer to that 640. So we're looking at over $1 million in that time span. So just to move on to next steps of the court is just, we're building a request for proposal right now. So we'll have a consultant come on board. I think it's really important to have a very unbiased consultant on board. We have a lot of information that our tennis stakeholders have helped us gather. Pickleball has also helped gather some information. They're in different formats, and how they were gathered, right? Like we want to make sure that it's very solid and stable, and we can all justify it. So we all have that buy-in that what we do in the future was done from a very unbiased base to start with. What we'll also share as we get the consultant on board then is we'll do a community engagement plan. We've got some really great stakeholders on board. We want to make sure we reach out to the general community as well. And we have that opportunity to keep that conversation going. So what we'll really do is to continue to collect that research and data, continue to engage those advocates and coordinate, especially with CU Boulder and BVSD. We know they're big players in the tennis court system, and they've got needs as well. So we're going to start those conversations now, even while this plan is building, to get those relationships in place. And then we'll make sure we get updated regularly as well throughout that process. And that's all I have. Do you guys have any questions, comments, or recommendations?
Questions from the board?
Thanks for the overview. I remember seeing an article from Denver about some newly created pickleball courts that got neighborhood backlash about noise. I was just wondering if that is something that's happened at Boulder at all, or that's just a Denver thing.
We are aware of the level of noise for pickleball, and we're actually testing a few things right now. Part of this plan will help us think about and determine and put some guidelines on where we should be placing pickleball courts and really how close they are to residential and what that noise level is. So we want to make sure that, we're putting them in the appropriate place. And that's another reason for this study to kind of go through identifying locations.
From the article, it looked like the noise, when they did the noise monitoring, it was below any legal threshold for the decibel level, but I don't know what.
It can be really dependent on the location. So whether there's vegetation, structures, so there are so many variables. It's hard to pinpoint an exact, but I think we will have some guidelines to give us some kind of minimums or maximums at least.
I know it's not a city property, but a lot of reference to the Rocky Mountain Tennis Center. I know that the north side of the creek is slated for redevelopment. Is that the south side courts too? Will the whole place will be lost? Okay. Do you have a sense of what, the 3 different facilities you mentioned, some going to BVSD, some going to Rocky Mountain closing, and then the CU South? What's the total loss of non-city courts?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't have that off the top of my head, but I can get it to you.
Okay, no, more just curious to like just
Yeah.
see kind of what we are losing. So thanks.
Are the Centennial courts included in your account of courts? They are, isn't there a joint use agreement with BVSD?
So currently those are, they're managed by BVSD wholly. So what was in that mapping does not include Centennial.
And is there not an agreement with BVSD to use those courts for various?
You know, if they're
Yeah, I can chime in
City
on that.
things.
So just background, the Centennial Courts were actually built by the city over 30 years ago in the early 90s on school district land. Typically, when and through a joint use, you build construction on property that is not yours, you operate it then for 30 or so years is kind of the standard to recoup some of that investment through revenues. And then it reverts back to the property owner. And that's what's happened with Centennial in 2022 with the update of the joint use agreement. They said, we're ready. We'd like them back, please. Really, because they're the home court for the Boulder High varsity tennis program. And they need to make sure that the courts are scheduled and managed with that key purpose on their school district property. The courts are part of the joint use agreement. The challenge is that the joint use agreement, because of school district properties, the use has to be with a city program, and tennis is one of the programs we work with a private partner on, and so they have to run directly through BVSD to use the courts.
And is it available for public drop-in use, or do you know? the
It is
status of that?
now. I know they're exploring changes, just like with our premier facilities, public use can result, like Pleasant View is not open for public use, nor are other premier ball fields. They are seeing, you heard earlier from the coach of Fairview, both Fairview and Boulder High like to facilitate a high level of play, and that means they want the courts in really good condition. So I believe that in the future, that may not be the case. Also a variable that we're considering, which is why I appreciate Tina mentioning the school district, the University of Colorado. There's a lot of partners in this area, which I think it makes it pretty exciting time to be talking about tennis because there's a lot of opportunity.
Would there be any interest in cost sharing from the city with the BVSD to allow those courts to stay open for public use by city residents? And that might be a cost-effective way to get a larger number of courts.
Yeah, that's something to explore. The challenge is that their concern isn't free play. It's non-reserved, just open to the community play, right? That's where you can get scooters and just other misuse that can deteriorate the courts. So we're happy to explore that. And we know, again, this is why BVSD and others are part of the conversation. I think there's other areas to look at too. I think there's courts all over town that are not operated by the city, such as those of HOAs. And so I am curious about what kinds of arrangements in general can facilitate more public play. But I think with the school district, it's hard because I understand their interest to protect their high level assets, their premium assets for the high level high school play. And yes, it's another variable and makes it harder, but I can understand where they're coming from.
Well, I would encourage that idea of looking at private court owners and seeing if there's a way to facilitate access. So I know there are lots of little like single courts with apartment units that are scattered all over the city, and some of them are in good shape and some of them are in terrible shape. And it seems like those are wasted assets if they're not available for, I rarely see them used just based on anecdotal observation. So.
Yeah, thanks for that tip. That is part of the scope.
Is there also BVSD courts at Manhattan? I think I've seen there like adults playing.
There are BVSD courts around the system as well. Again, I haven't mapped all of those. It was really like, this is the reality of what we own and manage and can control. And then the other pieces that are that conversation of bringing them in and looking at the overall need of the city and the community and the schools.
One last question. With the loss of it seems like the only indoor facility at Rocky Mountain, is that right?
It's a tennis bubble, but
Yeah, is that something that could be explored as an option to cover? I don't know what the cost of that is, but to cover a existing outdoor court and as a revenue, as a business model, to meet a need will not be that's there, but can't be provided.
I think it's something to explore in that long range. So as we start to look at those action and vision recommendations that come in that November, December timeframe, one of our stakeholders has actually done some great research. He's provided it to us as a great start for that conversation. to look at that. But first of all, we'd have to have the right facility to cover. And then we also have to remember anytime we cover it, it's a revenue generator and we're we're creating a fee system for that. Then we're also taking that out of the free courts for the, right? So in that equity realm too, it's kind of just thinking that through. And I think that needs some
Sure, yeah.
thought
I mean,
and
it's just worth
planning.
exploring. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
for sure.
Okay, any questions from Sunny? Just want to make sure she's got an opportunity to pipe in if she wants to. Okay, thank you very much, Tina.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the budget strategy roadmap and fee policy.
Thanks so much, Tina. While Jackson Height, our senior manager for business services, gets up, Rosa is going to pull up this presentation just because it's fairly brief. We're reporting back to you. Since we last met, we met with City Council about the city's 2024 budget development. The city's chief financial officer and executive budget officer presented on the assumptions and guidelines as the citywide budget development is happening. We are just really, in numbers, we're 10% of a very large budget, and there's a lot of moving parts. And so a small part of that conversation was the fee policy. And so Jackson has a very brief presentation he's going to share and just report back on that conversation.
There we are. It's been a while. Thank you all for being here. As Ali mentioned, just very brief, wanted to give you a high level update as far as what was discussed with City Council. Just as a reminder, tonight we're doing a quick review of the May 11th study session with City Council. We have on the first slide identifying what the PRAB's role for budget development is. You have seen this every meeting since March, so this is just a reminder as far as what the PRAB's purview is of making recommendations to the council about the appropriation or expenditure from Urban Parks Fund, and then the recommendation of the Parks and Recreation annual budget. At the study session, or as part of the fee policy, we did share this timeline that depicts the various touch points that we're having with the PRAB. As you're all aware, Q1 and Q2, you've been highly engaged with a whole lot of questions. We've done our research with benchmark communities, various analysis. Starting in June, we are going to be reaching out to the community connectors and residents to verify that we aren't having a negative impact on any of our community members as we propose the fee policy. As Ali mentioned earlier, at the June PRAB meeting, you will see the draft form of the policy. And then in July, our hope is that the PRAB would adopt this. We recognize that the fee policy will simplify many things, but it can also create questions for various community members. So starting in September, we do think that there will be a significant amount of community engagement, especially in areas where we are seeing fee increases. And then all of those fee increases will go through the fee policy as part of the 2024 budget development that City Council ultimately approves in October. And then beginning in January, we would start phasing in the new fees. We have committed that any of the community or recreation fee increases would not exceed 10% in the first year, just to be able to create some equity and ability to plan into individual and user groups how those fees are phased in. So that's an overview as far as where we've been and where we're planning to go. On the next slide, we highlighted the two big questions that we heard from council to staff. These questions really focused on the age of our facilities, which you're all aware of, given the recent community conversations about the 3 rec centers that Tina has been helping facilitate. And there was just general feedback that our fees are very high compared to surrounding communities. As you all have seen every year, our fees are highest for a municipal organization on the Front Range. And we do have some of the oldest recreation centers on the Front Range as well. So there was price sensitivity associated with any fee increases just based on the condition of our facilities. And then there was a request, as all of you have heard, to provide greater clarity on what the categories are, definitions, and examples of those programs. So we are committing when we come back in June with the draft fee policy to lay out all of our existing programs and what the categories are that those would fit into, as well as the definitions. On the next slide, we have highlighted what we heard as staff being the key comments from City Council. We think that there was continuous support for the services that we deliver to the community. As was affirmed with the Parks and Recreation Plan adoption last summer, there is a continuing support for finding alternative funding through grants and philanthropy, donations, and revenue generation. And then finally, City Council did agree with the PRAB in maintaining current levels of service and not wanting to decrease any service levels of the services we do currently provide. So that is a quick summary as far as where we're at. Just based on the timing of this meeting and when we talk to City Council, this is a very brief update. In June, we will be back with the draft fee policy. And at that time, we will ask you to critique all of the work that we have put into it based on all of the conversations we've had and the research that we are doing. And then our hope is that in July, there is the formal approval of the fee policy so we can begin working on the implementation aspect. So with that, I will open it up to any questions. Anna?
Just from listening to the public comment today, I was wondering about the term exclusive. It seems to be generating kind of a lot of backlash that no one wants to be thought of as being exclusive. I don't know if maybe like specialized or something. There's another term that might go over better with the community. It just seems like a number of people are like, we are not exclusive. We're not exclusive. We're not exclusive. I don't know, just a thought.
I'm looking to Ali here. We've had the word exclusive in our plan since 2015.
The PRAB approved the Recreation Priority Index in 2014. And since then, we've steadily implemented full cost recovery for exclusive programs. These regional facility user groups are actually the last outlier. I hear you. I agree. I understand that there is a reaction. I think the reaction is more to the fact that it means full cost recovery plus, right? More than it is the word. However, we certainly hear that. And as we look at things, we're not bringing back the Recreation Priority Index, but if there are opportunities to consider the category titles, I don't think we necessarily care what they're called. It does need to convey that the benefit is mostly to the individual as determined both by our criteria, but also industry practices. Part of what we're seeing in the benchmarking is that almost all of the agencies that we are looking to charge full cost recovery for rentals of their facilities.
Was there recognition from the City Council that the comparison of fees between peer cities and the Front Range are not apples to apples comparisons because we don't get the general fund subsidies that other cities do. And as a result, they can offer lower fees for access to their facilities. Is there recognition of that in the City Council, or is that something you've been able to get across to them so that they internalize it and understand?
I don't think. Yeah, I'm on. Sorry about that. I don't think it was called out directly as you're saying, Chuck, but there was a question as far as what the level of subsidy is that has been received from the general fund. As you recall, that number was about 1.5 to 1.6 million up until 2021, at which time we did receive a one-time subsidy for 22 and 23. We shared that our understanding is that subsidy would be dropping back to historical levels based on our conversations with the finance department. And there was some general comments made that providing additional funding for Parks and Recreation was an important priority. We did not get into a comparison of our fees compared to surrounding jurisdictions fees. Just because there are so many fees. We have over 3,200 various fees right now that we're still grasping our understanding of those fees.
3,200 fees, different fees for different.
Yes. So one of the goals of the fee policy is to simplify the number of fees that we have, the understanding for community members, as well as our staff of how we are administering these fees, charging these fees, and making them clear to the public. A lot of other jurisdictions still have 200 to 300 fees. which sounds like a whole lot, but you have to remember the diversity of services that Parks and Recreation provides, that our goal is to get much more simplified with the number of fees that we do have.
So I think just from a matter of public understanding of our fees, it's important to emphasize the difference between how we get our overall funding in Boulder compared to surrounding cities, because we don't get the general fund subsidy that they do, and that's a different model. And it's a decision that Boulder has consciously made, and I think the public needs to be aware of it so that they aren't as upset, when they compare what it costs to go to someplace in Louisville or Longmont or somewhere else. There folks in Longmont and Louisville are paying for it, but they're just paying for it in their taxes and other ways.
Yes, I would agree with all of that. I think that City Council's direction, as well as the 2022 plan, was for Parks and Recreation to be more entrepreneurial where we could. So it is a challenge. And as you mentioned, it's not an apples to apples comparison with surrounding communities.
So I guess I'm asking for a more public facing information on that topic, especially as we discuss the fee structure and it gets mentioned in the paper. I think it needs to be more explicitly stated and made clear to the public so that we don't get that pushback.
Understood. Thank you.
Just on that, I've heard this idea used in other places in other contexts. I don't know if it works here, but and how many people keep the receipt or pay attention to the receipt. But sometimes like kind of a breakdown of the costs or kind of the different subsidies that go into it, and that that's an immediate form of education that, I don't know, again, the cost or the logistics, or even if it's worthwhile, but that's one way you can just kind of like, hey, you paid $12 to get in or whatever, and this is how this breaks down. So
thank you. We always appreciate
sure
new ideas.
Okay, any further comment from the board? Okay, thank you very much. Yes, we'll move on to matters from the board, starting with our PRAB email response coordination. So in your packet, there is is this something we can put up on the screen to discuss? The current email.
The email system?
Yeah.
Rosa, can you share that, please, from the packet, the matters from the board? Thank you.
So while Rosa's getting that up, I'll provide some background. So in 2020, we members of the PRAB decided that we wanted a more robust response to community emails to the board, and we assigned or asked for PRAB members to self-assign to different email topics, and to ensure that we always responded, or at least had the opportunity, and someone was paying attention and could respond to emails that came in. There's always a staff response. So there's an automated message that goes out saying the PRAB received your message and you may hear from someone, or you may not, but we're always listening. And then usually if there's something that staff can respond to, there's a very thorough response by a staff member. And my personal opinion is that that staff response is often very clear and very well informed and deals with the topic at hand very efficiently. I have responded to emails from members of the community as an individual member of PRAB. I was given the recreation center topic, and I was pretty enthusiastic about it at first. And for the first year, I was quite good at responding. And then we had the pandemic, and everything changed. Now the recreation center was closed, and so I sort of dropped off doing that. And I, to be honest, I have not been responding to most of them. I do respond to the occasional one. So I guess I'd like a discussion of whether we feel like this sort of email response is something we want to consider doing again, And if so, how do we need to respond to every email or just some of them? Is it something we want to absolutely do every time? Or do we want to just give every member of the PRAB the opportunity to respond to every topic as they see fit? Those are sort of the two extremes of this model. So is there any feedback on the concept of responding to members of the community by email in a more formal and structured way?
I was just gonna say, I was very enthusiastic in 2020 as well. And maybe not as much as you, that was my first year on the board and I feel like I was very responsive. I've actually, to be honest, I haven't seen a lot of emails come in. So I don't know that there's maybe a current need for this level, maybe just to keep the structure, for when there's kind of uptick in response, but it seemed to work back then. But like I said, the emails have dropped off, or at least I'm not on them. It's a logical way to break down the issues, but I don't know. Welcome others' thoughts on it.
I don't feel like I know enough about anything of these topics to be able to be assigned and respond, and add any value above what any staff can respond to.
I guess I would say that sometimes just saying we're listening is a good enough response. Like, we've heard your concerns and something we're discussing, or something we discussed in a past meeting, or something we're going to discuss is enough. The staff responses are often very, very thorough and detailed. They're also very professional, and sometimes just a response from a community member with a more empathic response maybe is useful. Not to say that staff responses are not empathic, but they're often very professional and they're clear and to the point.
Chuck, I'm not sure if you can see my hand up.
Yeah, I can see it now. Go ahead, Sunny.
My preference would be to have everybody have the opportunity to respond when they feel that connection or passion towards a specific subject. I agree that having a more personal response would be useful and comforting, but I feel like it would need to come from somebody who has a special connection to whatever topic it is and is genuinely is responding in a very genuine way and willing to take that on, or willing to further their cause or something.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, frankly, given the history of this over the last 2 or 3 years. I felt like initially I felt the need to be forced to respond. I felt like it was my duty to respond, even though I didn't know what to say, or didn't feel a strong empathetic response to that particular topic. So I think you're right. I guess if we go that way, one thing I wanted to point out is these guidelines that are in the materials here, that when you're responding to resident emails, state that you're responding as an individual member of PRAB and not representing the views of the entire PRAB. And to make sure that you copy Rosa or PRAB and admin at bouldercolorado.gov so that the email response is recorded in the city system in case there's an open records request at some point. Well, that's my opinion. Are there other opinions?
I think that the staff members have been responding very fast, and I didn't see a need for us to respond. I think it's, as a resident from Boulder, if I have a question, I would care more about a quick response, that I'm happy that I understood, that someone understood my question and got back to me, more than, maybe from the PRAB. Just an opinion.
So what you're saying, what I think I hear you saying is that getting a detailed response back from staff is probably more important than getting we hear you message back from PRAB. Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay.
Sorry, does the general response or the response have kind of language like, all the members of the board are receiving this? I think it does, right? And, they can.
Rosa, can you scroll up a little bit? Because I think it's in, yeah, right there. So there's the current, it says, and we can adjust this to be whatever you'd like it to be. This is what it reads now. So thank you for emailing the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. All 7 members of the board have reviewed your message, and you might hear from any of them individually. All emails sent are open record.
It seems like enough. And if people want to weigh in beyond that, that's.
Okay. I think we have a consensus. We don't need to vote on this. I think we can agree to allow individual responses as needed. Keeping in mind that we want to follow these guidelines for your responses that are listed in below the table. Okay, next up, ooh, I'm lost here. We have the board liaisons to Boulder Parks and Recreation projects. And I think Allie has something to put up on the screen to share with us here.
I think Rosa's working on that. Look at that. I asked her if she would help us with this at 5:40 p.m. Thank you, Rosa, for diving in. Since I'm talking, I will share that. So in the before, when I say in the before, I mean pre-pandemic, when we had a lot of in-person public engagement and heavy projects, we would have a board liaison to some of them. We last did this with the department plan. Elliot served in that role, Tara before him, and then she was elected to city council. So then Elliot slipped in. Really, the intent of this liaison role is not to provide direction, because that needs to come to all 7 members of the PRAB if we're gathering input, but to specifically liaise with a project to provide guidance on process, on community engagement. That person would then have a deeper level of knowledge on the project that could help support your board conversation that is not staff talking about the level or the project's work. We see that as being helpful as you discuss some of these major projects that are upcoming. So we've listed the timeline for some of these projects. I want to add, because we didn't put in here the scope, I do not think at any time this commitment would exceed more than an hour a month on average. Or it might be in a specific quarter, you might have a workshop that is a couple of hours, but I think an hour a month is probably the average, and don't see it exceeding that. And if anyone has questions about the specifics of any of these projects, I'd be happy to say a little bit more about what the project might include. I will add specifically, you received an attachment from Rosa that the executive director of the Play Foundation shared about the role of the board member. I will note that in history, when the Play Foundation was formed, it was actually part of their bylaws that a member of the PRAB had to be a part of the board. And that disappeared at some point for a lot of different reasons. We do see benefits to both the department and our philanthropic nonprofit partner, the Play Foundation, when a member of the PRAB is on the board. And so Angie prepared some information and more background on that opportunity that you received in an email earlier this afternoon.
I don't want to be on the board of Play Foundation, but I would like to be a liaison for that one because I'm very familiar with Play Pass program. If we have to pick one, that's what I would like to be.
My poll on that, is there a member of the board that is interested in serving on the board? And I say that because I know they need some bright minds. They're building a really strong board. The work of Play, I don't know all of the history, but it's so important right now. I like to joke that trees are having a moment, and the amount of both federal funding and philanthropic funding available for trees is incredible. Play is facilitating the Tree Trust right now, which is how we are really driving the private investment in trees. As you know, our forestry department operates our public trees, and the Play Tree Trust is really helping investing in some of the private trees, which is 75% Boulder's urban canopy. So just supporting their effectiveness is really helpful. So I'm curious, of course, Anna, you can be a liaison and offer them your input and guidance at any point. I am curious if anyone would have the time and generosity of spirit and time to serve on their board.
I think I would consider it.
I might as well, just because the topic of trees is very interesting to me. Looking at their requirements for the board members, I don't have a lot of the requisite background that they're looking for. So I would, they want someone with a background in philanthropy and management and budgets and things like that, which is not my strong suit. But I'm going to look at their requirements and needs, maybe talk to someone there and see if it's a fit.
I know Angie, the executive director, would be happy to go on a walk with you and talk more about it. Sunny, do I see your hand up, or is that an old hand?
Oh, that must be an old hand. I would also love to do it, but the schedule does not work for me, unfortunately.
Got it.
I met with Angie actually today, and
Oh.
one of the things she was talking about was how she could form a deeper connection to PRAB, and she said she's going to try and set up individual meetings with every person on PRAB to kind of explain what they do and advocate for more funding from the Broncos Fund or other funding sources to fund their work.
Jason?
Yeah, I was, this just feels like a whole new board, like being here in person and then picking liaisons. It just is like a whole nother, in my 4th year, a whole new experience. So I'm really excited about this. I'd love to be a liaison to somebody that I don't know if we're picking these tonight, but this is just exciting to be able to kind of expand, our role beyond just being on Zoom. So
Yeah. I'm ready to leave the Zoom behind. Here's my
Yeah.
suggestion. Chuck and I talked about a little bit about this. Obviously Elliot is away, as is Bernie. My recommendation would be you're here, you get first choice. No, pencil in names and we can bring this back next month to finalize it. And we could also sort through if 3 people are passionate about the court system plan, you could talk offline. Chuck said he'd happily facilitate that and have you rock, paper, scissors it out.
Yeah, so why don't we just go through this list, and everyone who's potentially interested could raise their hand and we'll put the names down, if Rosa would be kind enough to do that. And then we can, when everyone's back, hopefully next month, although I'll be remote, we can hash it out. Okay, so Violet Park Development. And Sunny, if you want to volunteer as liaison, you're going to need to speak up because we're going to move pretty fast.
Will do.
You do? So Chuck.
I
and
will.
Anita and Sunny, okay?
I'd like to offer a point of.
Oh, no, sorry, Chuck. I was just saying I'll speak up.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Perfect. And so every board member is continuously going to be involved in these major projects as we bring you key milestones, right? The liaison, and ideally it's 1 per project. It would be the more regular point of contact, process, guidance, engagement. So, okay, we're clear.
Gotcha. Okay, Civic Area Phase 2. So we have Jason.
Can we pause for a minute, Mr. Chair? I thought I saw Anita's hand go up for Violet. Is that accurate? Oh, okay. So Rosa, if you would add also Anita, and then we can go through the list and figure out where we need to sort through.
Okay, Jason for the Civic Area Phase 2. I am potentially interested in that as well, although obviously I'm not going to do Play Foundation Board and all these liaison things. So, but I have some interest. Boulder Creek Management Plan. Did you raise your hand?
Yeah.
Okay. Jason again. And then 2 public-private partnerships, the Flatirons Golf Course.
I'm potentially
Okay, we
interested.
have Sunny and Anita. Thanks, Sunny. The Boulder Reservoir.
We were thinking this would be 1 person that would help with both, because the processes are going to be very similar around how we RFP, consult with the board. And so we were thinking this would be 1 person that would be the liaison for both projects through the end of the year.
Okay,
Just to clarify, we don't need a name for
Okay.
the res, a name for the res. I mean, we
Gotcha.
could do it that way. We thought it would be more efficient to have it be one person.
okay. So if you're okay with that, Sunny, we'll put you and Anita down as potentials. Then for system
That's
plans
fine.
and okay, then for system plans and initiatives, we have the courts system plan. And let's remember, we have Elliot and Bernie, so we don't need to don't have to fill every slot here. The fee policy. Recreation centers future.
I'm potentially interested in that.
Okay, so we got Sunny down for that. And I'm going to suspect that Bernie will be interested in that as well, based on what he said in the past. Regional facility business plans. Can you expand on what regional facility business plans is?
Sure. So the Boulder Reservoir, for board members who were around in 2020 Q1, we approved a South Shore capital strategy that's guiding the investments at that site. A follow-up to that project is a part 2 that is a site management and business plan that guides, and actually it dovetails perfectly with the outcomes of the 22 plan that is really intentional about how we operate the facility to be a quasi enterprise that can help drive revenue to community benefit programming. So that will have a business plan. The Flatirons Golf Course is a new facility with a beautiful new space, will also have a business plan. While typically the PRAB doesn't adopt those business plans, we do think that there'd be a valuable liaison and coordination role with those projects.
Okay, thank you for that.
I'll defer to others, but you could put me down for that too, as of interest.
And right. And then Boulder Junction Phase 2, Elliot was already selected at the March meeting. And then Play Boulder. And we already heard from Anna that she was interested in that. Did I cover everything?
I think you nailed it. I don't know if people aren't as interested in courts. I know there's a lot of public interest, but it's going to be a great conversation, we promise.
Yeah, when we revisit this next month, I hope we can fill out some of these more important liaison positions that are currently unfilled. Okay, let's move on to August meeting planning. And the issue here is that the 4th Monday of the month falls at a time of vacation for most Parks and Recreation staff. Is that correct? No.
Nope, this was just a verbal update that the board has expressed interest in a field trip and some capital site visits. And we're trying to work through those logistics. In our new hybrid world, we have to have virtual participation anytime there's a quorum of board members. So we're working through with the attorneys what that might look like and how we can get creative to get you on site for a meeting. This is for new members. Anita, I know you're not new, you've been here a year, but Sunny, Anita, Anna, this is a thing. Jason, you've never done this. This is a thing we did in the before. We would have meetings in parks. We would go to sites. We've met in the middle of grass at Sahlberg Park. We've met at the East Boulder Community Center. This room has technology that makes it very easy for our teammates to facilitate the hybrid opportunity. As you saw tonight, we're getting public interest. The community likes to participate in public engagement hybrid. And so we have to figure out how to allow that. We know if it's a study session, you don't have to allow public comment. The public still has to be available for the meeting. So we just want to let you know we haven't lost sight of that request. We're working through it and expect to have a more thorough report out at the June meeting. Rosa, did I miss anything?
Perfect.
So what is the meeting that we usually have to shuffle around for vacation schedules? Is that July?
Typically November and December, right?
No, I thought there was a July.
Spring break. We have canceled a summer meeting. So typically, if you look at our
That's what it
meeting
is.
load, July and August, our department in 3 days, 80% of our staff are heads down and working so hard. You will see, I guess this is a good opportunity for me to say, you might see requests from community members that we say, that's a great idea. We'll talk about it in the fall, because we are so focused on facilitating fun for thousands of children and adults across the system. And so our workload lightens up as well. And so in the past, we've actually canceled one of the summer meetings because there's just not been a business need.
Okay.
But we haven't proposed that at this point. I do know that when we are looking at calendar, August is pretty light. That's why it would be ideal for a field trip if we can figure it out.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you for correcting me. Okay, let's move on to the final topic for the night, which is PRAB matters. This is the opportunity for PRAB members to weigh in on concerns they may have heard from the community that are not otherwise addressed more directly through Inquire Boulder and other avenues, and any contacts they have with the community that they want to bring to the attention of the board.
Mr. Chair, might I chime in here just to, so Elliot Hood is out of town. He and his family are honoring his father. He has been working on the PRAB handbook updates. I know you folks have discussed those a couple of times. Our city attorney is on a 2-week vacation, well-deserved, as she's been working double duty for quite some time. They are going to review that in early June, and he expects to be bringing that back to you in the June meeting.
Great, thanks for reminding me of that. I completely forgot.
I knew one of us would, but by saying it out loud, that one of us would remember.
Oh.
It was me, but next time it'll be you.
It's always you. Yes, Anna?
I had 2 questions based on the meeting that I had today with Angie. She wanted to know how she could kind of get a greater connection with PRAB. And like she mentioned she was going to try and set up individual meetings, and also asked if she could come speak at one session about what Play Foundation does.
I see you're looking at me. I'm going to look to Chuck that this is something you could bring to the agenda setting. So I'm going to actually, Chuck, if you don't mind, for both Anna, I know Bernie isn't here, but as a reminder for everyone, the way that items get on the PRAB agenda is that immediately following the business meeting that same week. So on Thursday, myself, some members of my staff will meet with the chair and vice chair to talk about what business needs the department has around either the shalls or the mays of the work that we need from the board. But that's also where if board members have items that you'd like to be added to the agenda, they can be discussed and considered. And so what I'll ask, and Rosa can help us with documenting this, is that there could be an item that is a presentation from the Play Foundation.
And matters from the board here is the perfect time to bring it to our attention so we can put it on the agenda.
Okay, great.
Committee discussion. So thank you.
And then the second funding was more of a process question about the Broncos funding allocation. She was saying that there's going to be some advisory groups set up to give input. And then I was just wondering if the community will also be run through community connectors for feedback.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure what Angie was talking about, I don't remember if we gave an update in one of our consent agendas. I feel like we did, but what you're going to hear us talk about sometime soon with you is Boulder's Child Friendly Cities Initiative through UNICEF USA. So what Boulder has decided to do, we have nearly $2 million in money from the sale of the Broncos, and it relates to how the stadium district was developed when the new Invesco field was built. There was a clause that should the team ever be sold, some of the profits should go back to the communities that paid into that stadium district. So some communities, I believe the city of Lafayette has like $30,000. Boulder County has several $100,000. Boulder received $2 million. Based on the incredible opportunity that provides, and based on the fact that we were going to be becoming a child-friendly city USA with Growing Up Boulder, really helping to lead the charge. What Boulder has said that we are going to do is that money will be spent as outlined by kids. And so an outcome of this child-friendly cities process, CFCI, you're going to hear us saying it a lot, is a youth plan. That youth plan is going to be informed by a community assessment. There's a government assessment that'll be kicking off with the city of Boulder and other stakeholders like Boulder County. And that'll outline some needs, but then there's a community assessment where the community identifying needs. And then from that, there will be an action plan, and it's youth-led, youth-driven, targeted typically to underrepresented children in our community. So, and I don't know about the community connectors and residents specifically, but I know that very much we are trying to center equity in this project and making sure that this money has an incredible opportunity to support kids. So I'll make sure Angie's up to speed. I know Longmont is having an advisory committee. I know that Boulder County is having an advisory committee, but Boulder is creating this youth plan with youth creating it. And that's how we'll determine the spending of our $2 million. That project is just kicking off. Just as an FYI, we expect that around this time next year, and as we're developing the 2025 budget, we would have recommendations for that spending. We have also said, though, should this assessment that's happening over the next several months identifies immediate needs where we could be supporting kids, say around mental health, there could be an initial allocation of funding.
I wanted to share that I applied for that board for the Broncos one.
With Boulder County?
Yes.
Wonderful. That's great.
Okay, do any other members of PRAB have comments or matters they'd like to bring up? Okay, that brings us to the end of the agenda. There's nothing else to add. I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting. May I have a second?
I'll second it, Chuck.
Okay, great. All in favor of adjourning? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Welcome back, board members.